You spend years teaching a kid how to look both ways before crossing a physical street. You hold their hand, you point out the cars coming down the road, you explain the danger of a blind corner.
Right, because you can actually see the cars. The danger is visible.
Exactly. It makes total sense. But today, the second you hand a 12-year-old a smartphone, you are basically dropping them into the middle of a 12-lane digital metropolis, completely blindfolded, and just saying, good luck out there, try not to crash.
Yeah, we are sending them into this permanent, highly public, 24/7 environment with almost zero practical training.
It's wild.
And the rules we grew up with, the old methods of supervision where you could physically see who your kid was hanging out with in the backyard,
Right.
those simply do not translate when the playground is entirely virtual, infinite, and sitting right in their pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for today's deep dive is navigating this modern digital landscape for kids and teens. Because it is a space that can feel incredibly overwhelming, whether you are trying to guide a child through it, mentoring a teenager, or if you're just someone listening right now who is endlessly curious about how technology is rewiring human behavior.
Which is pretty much all of us at this point.
Totally. So we are going to figure out how to move from constantly playing defense to actually playing offense in the digital world. And we are pulling insights from a really fascinating stack of materials today.
It's a great mix of sources.
It really is. We are crossing the ground level practical advice of a comprehensive digital safety playbook from a middle school IS 125 with these massive data sets from digital citizenship hubs like Common Sense Media and smartsocial.com.
Yeah, and we're even going to decode a highly technical artifact from the cybersecurity firm Cloudflare that, well, it perfectly illustrates the trap we all fall into.
Oh, I cannot wait to get to that part. But before we can even begin to talk about screen time limits or parental control apps, we have to look at the psychological environment young people are actually living in right now, right?
Absolutely. The playbook from IS 125 brings up this brilliant concept of the invisible boundary. I mean, for adults, there's usually still a line between the physical world and the digital world. We log on, we log off.
Yeah, mostly.
Right, mostly. But for a middle schooler today, that boundary has completely evaporated.
I mean, they're doing their school projects on shared Google Docs. They're hanging out on Discord voice channels. They are building entire worlds on Roblox. Their social currency is entirely digital.
Which makes them highly susceptible to what the playbook calls the compare and despair trap.
Compare and despair.
Yeah. If you look at how the adolescent brain develops, 12 and 13-year-olds are biologically wired to seek peer approval. It's an evolutionary imperative for them to figure out exactly where they stand in the social hierarchy.
Yeah, right. It's a survival instinct.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Now imagine injecting a high-speed, algorithmically driven social media feed directly into that biological vulnerability.
And it's a recipe for disaster. They aren't just comparing themselves to the kids in their homeroom anymore. They are looking at a highly curated, professionally filtered highlight reel of thousands of people.
And the psychological toll of that is just staggering. They're consuming an endless stream of parties they weren't invited to, bodies that have been digitally altered to look perfect, and lifestyles they just can't afford.
Yeah.
The result isn't just a fleeting moment of jealousy, It triggers intense anxiety, severe body image issues, and a chronic, inescapable fear of missing out.
FOMO on steroids.
Truly, they genuinely believe everyone else is living a flawless life, and they are the only ones falling behind.
That actually brings up another concept from the playbook that really struck me, which is the social magnifying glass. Think about how different this is from the physical world we grew up in. If a playground fight happened, or someone started a rumor in the cafeteria, the school bell eventually rang. You went home, you closed your bedroom door, and you had a physical sanctuary. You got a break.
Right, but under the social magnifying glass of the internet, there is no sanctuary.
None.
Cyberbullying is a constant 24/7 event. It is incredibly public, and it is permanent. A minor misunderstanding or like an embarrassing photo shared in a group chat can spiral into massive social exclusion in a matter of hours.
It's like middle school never ends.
Oh,
The
yeah.
cafeteria drama literally follows them into their bed at 2 in the morning because the device is resting right there on the nightstand.
Exactly.
But I have to ask, is it just their peers they have to worry about? Because as I read through these materials, some of the threats outline a reality that is much more sinister than just cafeteria gossip.
Unfortunately, no, it's not just peers.
Hmm.
That biological need for peer approval we talked about, it gets heavily weaponized by adults.
Yeah.
Predators understand adolescent psychology perfectly. They know that kids are hyper-vigilant about traditional stranger danger in the physical world, so they don't operate like traditional strangers. They actively pose as other teenagers in gaming lobbies.
Which are spaces where kids naturally let their guard down. I mean, if a kid is playing a cooperative game on Roblox, they just assume the avatar helping them build a house is another 12-year-old.
Exactly. And the manipulation is incredibly patient. These predators use sophisticated grooming techniques. They might spend weeks or even months building trust through shared interests in a game or on a Discord server.
Wow, months.
Oh, easily. They slowly isolate the child from their real-life friends, becoming a trusted confidant before they ever cross a line into asking for private photos or suggesting a real-world meetup.
It's terrifying. And wrapping all of this together is the reality of the permanent record. I think about the illusion of the disappearing message on apps like Snapchat.
It's a massive, dangerous illusion.
Kids share things thinking the photo just vanishes into the ether after 10 seconds.
But any message, any photo, any poorly thought-out joke can be screenshotted instantly by the receiver. Suddenly, a split-second bad decision made by a 13-year-old whose frontal lobe isn't fully developed
Right.
becomes a permanent digital footprint. They completely lose ownership of their own actions the second they hit send.
And that footprint can absolutely impact college applications, career prospects, and even carry severe legal consequences if inappropriate images of minors are involved.
Exactly.
So hearing all of this, the relentless bullying, the sophisticated predators, the permanent consequences for a temporary mistake, your immediate, entirely understandable instinct as a parent or a mentor is to just build a massive wall.
Oh, absolutely.
You want to lock down the home router, ban all social media, and just build an impenetrable fortress around the child.
It is the natural defensive posture when faced with an overwhelming threat. But this is exactly where that strange technical artifact in our sources serves as a massive wake-up call about the limits of that approach.
Yes. Here's where it gets really interesting. In our stack of materials, there is a literal error page from Cloudflare. Now, for anyone listening who isn't a web developer, imagine Cloudflare as a massive automated security fence that wraps around millions of websites to protect them from hackers.
Right. It's an enterprise-grade shield.
Exactly. And this specific error is an attention-required block page. And the website that the security fence decided to block, it was connectsafely.org.
It's just wild. A website that is entirely dedicated to helping parents learn how to keep their kids safe online.
The irony is physically painful. It was specifically logging Cloudflare Ray ID, 9DDB18790 TEMAS 604, just a bunch of technical jargon meaning it shut it down.
Yep.
The security service literally blocked a safety website. Relying purely on technical blocks is like locking the doors to your house so tightly that even the security guard can't get inside.
That's a great analogy. And what's fascinating here is the underlying lesson about how automated technology actually functions. When you look at why that error triggered, it didn't block the user out of malice.
Right.
The automated system saw a string of text being entered that it didn't recognize. Developers call this malformed data, or maybe it resembled SQL commands used by hackers to break into databases. The system doesn't stop to ask questions. It just sees a pattern it doesn't like and slams the door shut.
It's a bouncer that just throws everyone out of the club, including the owner, because they didn't like the look of their shoes.
Exactly. A system like that has absolutely zero context.
Yeah.
It cannot understand nuance. It cannot understand human intent. And most importantly, it cannot parent a child.
Yeah.
If you simply install a blunt firewall on your home network, your kids will either find a technical workaround within an hour, or the automated blocks will indiscriminately shut down the positive educational parts of the internet along with the bad.
Which is why the IS-125 playbook is so adamant that adults must become what they call digital pilots. You cannot just install a firewall, dust your hands off, and monitor from the sidelines. You have to be in the cockpit with them.
You have to guide them.
But let's get practical here. If automated walls shut out the good with the bad, how do we actually establish a baseline of control? Because the playbook does recommend specific tools.
It does. Technology alone isn't the answer, but it is a necessary foundation. The playbook recommends utilizing what they call the Big Three control hubs. These aren't blunt firewalls. They are tools designed to give parents actual leverage.
Okay, let's break down how these actually work. First, there's Google Family Link, which governs Android devices and Chromebooks.
Right.
This isn't just about blocking bad websites, it's about controlling the hardware itself. You can set physical bedtimes for the device, where the screen simply locks down at a certain hour.
Which is huge.
Huge. And you also have to approve any app download before it even reaches the phone. Then there is Apple Family Sharing for iPhones and iPads, which uses screen time to stop in-app purchases and allows you to restrict exactly who can text the device during specific hours.
And those two represent your operating system level controls. They dictate how the physical piece of glass and metal behaves.
Right.
But the third tool is where we see technology applied with actual nuance. It's an app called Bark.us.
Bark.us. And the mechanism behind Bark is entirely different, right? It monitors texts and social media, but it doesn't force you to read your teenager's digital diary.
Exactly. Think about the sheer volume of messages a teenager sends in a single day. A parent cannot and absolutely should not read all of them.
It would be a full-time job.
And a massive invasion of privacy that completely destroys any trust between the parent and the child. What Bark does is use machine learning to analyze the context of the language.
Oh, interesting. Context.
Yes. It knows the difference between teenagers playfully roasting each other with slang and a targeted, repetitive campaign of bullying. It scans for the contextual signs of a predator grooming a child or language indicating depression.
That's incredibly smart.
It is. It only alerts the parent when that contextual threshold is crossed, providing a summary of the concern without exposing the child's entire private life.
The playbook also gets into app-specific settings, too. They advise making sure TikTok's default 60-minute limit for users under 16 is actually turned on.
Yes, very important.
They push for utilizing Instagram's private teen accounts, which inherently restrict direct messages from unknown adults. They even suggest going into Snapchat settings and disabling their My AI chatbot entirely, just to remove that unpredictable variable from the child's feed.
Those are your dashboard instruments as a digital pilot.
Okay, but wait. I have to push back here for a second.
Sure.
I am looking at the data from the Smart Social source, and they highlight a really troubling statistic. 67% of teenagers say they know exactly how to hide what they do online from their parents.
Yeah, that's a real number.
2/3 of kids are essentially digital ninjas. So if they know how to clear histories, use secret vault apps, and bypass screen limits, aren't these big three controls just giving us a false sense of security? Are we just pretending we have control?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, your skepticism is entirely justified. Any technical control can and will be bypassed by a motivated 13-year-old with a YouTube tutorial.
Right.
But you have to look at the other psychological statistics Smart Social provides right next to it. 43% of teens say they would change their online behavior if they simply knew their parents were observing them.
Wow. Almost half of them.
Exactly. Just the awareness that a parent is in the cockpit changes how they fly the plane.
So it's more of a deterrent.
The tech controls are a baseline, not a cure. They are a speed bump. They introduce friction into the process of making a bad decision. But the real solution, the only truly foolproof filter that exists, is the child's own judgment.
Which is hard to build.
It is. And you only build that judgment by bringing their digital behavior out of the shadows. That requires an immense amount of trust, and it requires open, sometimes really uncomfortable communication.
Which brings us to arguably the most important non-technical document in this entire stack of sources, the counselor's digital citizenship contract from IS 125.
It's a fantastic document.
It's not a list of router settings. It is a physical, written agreement between the child and the parent.
And notice how it establishes ground rules that manipulate the physical environment, rather than trying to police the digital one.
Yes.
For example, the contract introduces the digital sunset. All devices, phones, tablets, laptops, go to a central charging station in the kitchen or living room at 9 o'clock at night, period.
Which solves multiple problems at once. I mean, it protects their sleep cycle, sure, but more importantly, it physically removes them from the late-night social media drama where the vast majority of the damage occurs. Nothing good happens in a middle school group chat at 11:30 at night.
Absolutely nothing. Then there is the common area rule. No laptops or gaming consoles allowed in dark, isolated bedrooms. Screen time happens in shared family spaces.
Because darkness and physical isolation are the exact breeding grounds for digital trouble.
Right. If a child is sitting on a living room couch playing Roblox, a predator is far less likely to succeed in grooming them simply because a parent might walk by at any moment.
Makes total sense. They also introduced the front porch test for kindness. If you wouldn't say a comment out loud to someone's face while standing on their physical front porch, do not type it into a text box or an Instagram comment.
It brilliantly grounds virtual actions in physical reality. It forces the child to reattach a living, breathing human being to the digital avatar they are interacting with.
So, what does this all mean? When you look at all these physical rules, they make logical sense. But there is one specific clause in this contract that stopped me in my tracks. It is called the no-fault report clause.
Oh, it is without a doubt the most psychologically brilliant piece of insight in this entire playbook.
The clause is actually a promise from the parent to the child. It essentially reads, if I see something online that makes me feel scared, confused, or weird, I can tell my parents. They promise to listen and help me solve the problem without automatically taking my phone away.
To appreciate why that is so profound, you really have to understand the psychology of why kids hide things from their parents in the first place.
Right. Why are they so secretive?
Put yourself in the shoes of a 13-year-old who just received an inappropriate photo from a stranger, or who just saw their entire friend group start a vicious rumor about them on Snapchat.
It's terrifying for them.
It is. And they don't hide that pain because they want to deal with it alone. They hide it because they are terrified that if they bring the problem to you, your immediate reaction will be to confiscate their device.
Because to a teenager, that device isn't just a toy. It is their entire social lifeline. Taking it away isn't just a punishment. It is digital exile from their entire generation.
Precisely. So, to avoid that exile, they suffer in silence. They try to handle the predator or the cyberbully on their own, which, as we know, almost always makes the situation drastically worse.
Of course.
By explicitly promising not to confiscate the phone, by completely removing the fear of punishment, you fundamentally change the power dynamic.
You shift the dynamic entirely. If a kid gets a weird Discord message and they know the phone isn't going to end up in a locked drawer, they are going to walk into the kitchen and show you the message.
Yes.
It changes the relationship from me versus you to us versus the internet. You become true co-pilots facing the problem together rather than an authority figure they have to actively deceive.
It is the ultimate shift from policing to parenting.
So we have spent a lot of time today talking about avoiding the bad stuff. We've talked about dodging predators, navigating cyberbullying, and creating contracts to manage what Smart Social notes is an average of 9 hours of screen time a day for teens and preteens. 9 hours.
That's a staggering number.
But I have to wonder, is the ultimate goal here just to survive the internet? Are we just trying to make sure these kids make it to age 18 without ruining their lives?
Well, that is where the philosophy from platforms like Smart Social and Common Sense Media really flips the script. Their stance is that the goal is not merely risk avoidance. The goal is proactive digital citizenship.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, it is about actively shaping how young people interact with the global community.
It's the exact difference between merely teaching a teenager how to not crash a car versus actually teaching them how to drive somewhere amazing.
That's a perfect way to put it. And this raises an important question. How do we actually help kids use these devices with a genuine purpose, rather than just as a massive 9-hour-a-day time sink? Both sources emphasize teaching kids to keep their online interactions light, bright, and polite. But it also requires adults to stay ahead of the curve.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Common Sense Media, for instance, provides extensive guides for parents on generative AI and AI companions. You cannot just block tools like ChatGPT. You have to teach your kids how to use them productively, ethically, and critically.
So instead of just telling them what not to do, how do they take the offensive?
By teaching them to shine online, Smart Social heavily emphasizes that students can actually use social media to their advantage. They can build a positive digital identity.
Okay, so like a portfolio.
Exactly. They can curate a digital footprint that acts as a dynamic portfolio of their volunteer work, their creative projects, and their actual interests.
So instead of a permanent record being a terrifying list of mistakes waiting to ruin a college application, it becomes an asset. They take control of the narrative that future employers and admissions boards are going to see anyway.
When a child learns to use their smartphone as a tool for creation and connection rather than just a slot machine for dopamine, everything changes.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
They are no longer passive consumers, vulnerable to whatever the algorithm feeds them. They become active architects of their digital lives.
Wow. We have covered some serious ground today.
We really have.
We started by exploring the intense psychological reality of the compare and despair trap and how the 24/7 social magnifying glass biologically impacts a developing brain.
We looked at the inherent limitations of relying solely on automated technical walls, beautifully illustrated by the painful irony of a security system blindly locking out a safety website because it lacked human context.
Right, the poor security guard locked out of the house. We broke down how the big three baseline controls Google, Apple, and Bark actually function, and realized that they only work when paired with a no-fault contract built on genuine trust and a shared physical environment.
And finally, we shifted the mindset from merely playing digital defense to playing offense, helping kids actively build a positive digital footprint.
It requires a comprehensive evolution in how we approach technology within our families.
Truly.
And as a reminder to you listening, whether you are trying to implement these strategies for a child in your life right now, or maybe you are just reflecting on your own 9 hours a day screen habits, being a proactive digital pilot is a skill we all desperately need to cultivate. The digital metropolis isn't going anywhere. We just have to learn how to navigate its streets.
But as we wrap up our deep dive today, there is one final, somewhat provocative thought I want to leave you with, especially as we consider the rapid, unpredictable advancement of technology.
Okay, lay it on us.
We focus so much today on protecting a child's permanent record from youthful mistakes. We agonize over the idea that a screenshot of a bad joke might ruin a college application 10 years down the line.
Yeah, it's a huge fear.
But looking ahead, as generative AI becomes incredibly sophisticated, capable of perfectly faking any photo, any video, or any text message in a matter of seconds,
Oh, wow.
right? If literally everything on the internet can be faked, will the concept of a permanent digital footprint completely lose its power to harm us? Or will the truth simply become infinitely harder to prove?